Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hyperconscious Podcast is proudly sponsored by our friend and mentor, David Meltzer of the Playbook Podcast. He was kind enough to join us on episode 144 and 135.
Folks, it has become Kevin and I's mission in life to help you realize that the life of your dreams is right on the other side of you becoming the greatest version of yourself. Let us help you do that.
I rarely do these things twice in such a short amount of time, but you guys impress me. I believe in people that provide value and of our service. You two guys are on your way to huge fulfillment, purpose, and profitability, and I look forward to helping you both.
We appreciate that more than you know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest Small Talks episode where Alan and I sat down and talked all about caring. Today, we are going to do a Scratching the Surface episode on the word priorities. So we are going to talk about priorities because I think, kind of like we talked about with caring, some people care about things that don't matter as much as other things. And I think some people have their priorities not necessarily in order.
Right.
Maybe you're more focused on priorities that aren't making you better. If one of your priorities is to get home in time to watch a certain show, versus carving out the time throughout your week to go to the gym, I would say that that's kind of short-sighted and you're not going to get the best out of yourself. So we're going to talk about priorities and what they mean to you, how to shift them, and how to make the most out of the ones you are creating.
Okay, folks, so before we jump deep into priorities, what they mean to us and what they will help you in your life, first I want you to become a part of the Hyperconscious Nation, which is a new Facebook group. So we're doing something different. So instead of the mailing list, we're actually doing a Facebook group where I've already done 2 live videos in there. I think Kevin's done 2. We're posting about different goals, different strategies that I do with my clients, things that we're going through. We're actually about to do a Facebook Live after this episode.
Yes.
In that group. We want to be able to engage with you, and you have, most importantly, you two. You all engage with each other, which we're already seeing happen, and it's so exciting. So if you go to the hyperconsciouspodcast.com and click on join #HyperconsciousNation, it will bring you directly to the Facebook group. It's a private group, and you can invite people, but make sure they're hyperconscious and they're into personal development. We really do want to keep this like-minded individuals who really care about this stuff and don't really bark at it. But you'll be prompted with some questions, and you can join the group and engage with us there.
Yes. So I think that when it comes to the questions, I set the questions up so we can learn about you. We want to know what you're going through, what you want out of the group, whether it's motivation or accountability. I think that's the thing. We have heard a lot of people say, I just don't have that many like-minded individuals in my life. And that's what we're trying to provide. Not only will Alan and I be in the group, but we have people from all over the world.
Right.
At this point. And they're trying to become the most hyperconscious versions of themselves. And if you can add value to that, that's awesome. If you can take value from other people's experiences, that's awesome. We want it to be a win-win-win, and we want to help you in any way possible. If you do sign up before our event, you will be entered in the drawing to win 2 free tickets to our event on July 25th at the Groton Inn in beautiful Groton, Massachusetts, the Confident Women's Consortium. So if you sign up, we will pick 2 people or 1 person for 2 tickets.
And then you can bring a friend as well to that event because you'll have 2 tickets.
2 tickets.
Not one, but 2.
Not 1, but 2 for 1 person, but 2 people.
What do you think about priorities? You think we should get into that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It sounds good. So I actually prepped some questions for Kevin because I like when he goes deep. I have breakthroughs, and I know you guys do as well. So here we go. Okay. What does having priorities mean to you? That's the first question. Hold on.
The multiples.
And how can we convince ourselves and the listeners that having strict priorities is actually a good thing?
Priorities to me are the most important things most important tasks on a day-to-day basis, the most pressing issues, the things that will have the most return on investment. A priority is something that matters more than other things for reasons that are weighed out.
Okay.
Okay, so today my priorities were podcast episodes. Why?
Yes.
Because without the podcast episodes, everything else comes to a screeching, painful halt.
Yeah, right.
So it has to be a priority.
Right.
Right? Like I'm not going to be vacationing today. Podcasts are recorded on Mondays.
Yep.
That is a priority, a strict priority. We have never missed a podcast.
Okay.
It is the heaviest priority possible for us. So to me, it's you making the decision that these things are what matter, and I have to make sure that I accomplish them. Maybe it's every day, maybe it's every other day, whatever. It is a choice that you're making that these things are what matter the most.
How do people know what matters the most?
You got to figure out. So I would say, and I'm sure Alan would say, you have to reverse engineer what result you're trying to get. So for us, we are doing 4 episodes a week now.
Yep.
Our goal is to hit 1 million listens this year,
Yep.
right? So
At least.
you
At least.
you took a second there. I can
Yeah.
tell it hasn't been on the consciousness.
Yeah, right. I haven't done my flashcard yet today. And in the upper
Interesting.
left-hand corner of my flashcard that I do every day, it says star, and it says at least 1 million listens in 2019.
I like the at least, but
That was Dave Meltzer's suggestion.
yes,
He said, "Don't bottleneck yourself. Say at least."
I always appreciate that, but
Right.
I think the thing is like, if you're if you want to get healthy, so say you want to lose 15 pounds,
Right.
One of your priorities has to be to go to the gym.
Yes.
Another one of your priorities is to eat healthier. So that also can break down into, well, maybe one of my priorities is to meal prep. Like that's the thing. Priorities
Track
are
calories.
they're all connected,
Yes.
but it all starts with a big goal.
So
Most
you
of the
have
time.
to reverse engineer an outcome that you want in advance. Think about it this way. If you're doing a bodybuilding show, your priorities are going to be very different than someone who's not.
Yes.
And it has to be that way. There really is no way around that.
We had a listener reach out and message me. I don't know if she messaged you as well, but she said, I really liked the commitment episode because one of the things that you spoke about was being committed to the wrong things. And I think sometimes I'm too committed to my health and fitness. And that might sound like, oh, how is that possible? Well, actually, I think it can be, honestly.
Give me an example.
Well, she said like she didn't actually give me a super specific example, but I know that like a lot of people obsess over what, like you and I, right? Some people would say that we are too committed sometimes to fitness. I don't think we are,
No, I nope.
but that's because there is no trade-off for us. Somebody who is like in good shape and they're happy with where they are. What I said to this girl was, if you were doing a fitness show, then you'd have to be more committed, and that would be okay. It would be okay to suffer. It would be okay to miss out on family events. That's what I was talking about when it comes to like
Do you mean okay to others or okay to like in general? That's the thing. Like what
okay
is
to yourself.
Right.
Okay to yourself.
Right.
Because now
it's worth it. You're going for something worth it.
If you're happy with where you're at and you're trying to get better, but there's not a specific date of like,
Yeah.
I have to be at my peak performance, my peak condition on July 15th. Have a dinner with your family.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. Maybe we don't agree on that. That's how I view it.
No, you do, but I think that if you do have the goal, and you have to decide, is this goal more important than the experiences? There's outcomes and experiences, and you have to prioritize one over the other, I think, at every given moment.
I agree. But
Do
you just weigh it.
Yeah, at every crossroads.
Am I okay with this taking 3 days longer because of this meal? That's what
Right.
I always say.
Exactly, 100%.
So I think we meet in the middle.
So you talk a lot about old Kevin
Yeah, yeah.
and then the new Kevin.
Yeah.
So pre-podcast Kevin was a little different,
Oh yeah.
right?
Mess. It's a mess.
And then post-podcast Kevin is the new, as Mark Metry would say, 2.0
The
version
2.0 version, yes.
of Humans 2.0.
Yes.
Okay, so old Kevin, what were old Kevin's priorities pre-podcast? And even if they weren't conscious,
Mhm.
okay? And then what are new Kevin's priorities, and how have they changed your life?
Okay, so I have said this before, and I think this is kind of the thing that one of my new mottos, one of my new fundamentals is this version of Kevin that you're seeing, you're hearing, that's sitting next to Alan is an infant. This version of me is 2 years old. Okay, I lived as another version of myself for 27 years, most of my life.
He was jacked, though.
I've always been in the gym. I've always been focused on being jacked. That's always been a priority. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
But, I think for a long time my priority was staying safe. Was staying literally my priority was to stay in my comfort zone. My priority was to be quote unquote happy.
Right.
And I never was. Isn't that strange? One of
Yes.
my priorities and one of my goals, one of my focuses was to be quote unquote happy, and I never was.
Well, I think happiness is a byproduct of something bigger.
I agree. I think a lot of people think it's something that you can bottle up and sell, and I don't really think it's that way. I think it's attached to so many other things. But that's a whole nother episode. We
That's
could do
a fire teaser clip.
we
right
could
there.
do a whole
Maybe that's
small talks episode on
Yes,
happy.
we could.
But I don't really know. Like I prioritized experiences, safe experiences, good experiences. I prioritized relationships because I got my fulfillment and my self-worth out of them for sure. I would say I prioritize mostly short-term things for the moment. And money. I definitely prioritize money.
Right.
But not like it's hard to even say because I didn't have a goal. My priority was whatever felt good that day.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I've often said, and Kevin knows this, I don't think you should do what makes you happy. I think you should do what makes you great. Because honestly, I think what makes you great is going to make you happy.
Yeah.
And I think we were never taught that. Certainly not in the formal education system. I think we're chasing pleasure in the moment for something far greater. And I think that's probably old Kevin's mantra a little bit.
I agree. I think I didn't have I wasn't working towards anything. I was working on just the day-to-day. I was working on getting by. It was just micro after micro after micro. There wasn't a macro. So my priorities were to make the micro as good as possible.
Wow.
Because I didn't have a macro. Now, the second part of that question,
What
was
are your
it?
priorities now? So the second part of the question is, what are new Kevin's priorities?
Mm-hmm.
And how have they changed your life?
So new Kevin's priorities are getting better as much as humanly possible, learning as much as possible, connecting as much as possible, adding as much value as possible, changing lives. I want to help people believe in themselves. I want to be the person that I needed when I was at my lowest point, and how is that? That's changed everything.
Yeah.
I have to be vulnerable. I have to tell you guys what's going on in my life. I have to tell you my deepest, darkest secrets. I want to tell you about my insecurities. I want to tell you about my experiences and the lessons I've learned and the things I'm not proud of and the things I am proud of and the things I want to be more proud of. And it's changed everything. It's absolutely changed everything. Now when I wake up, I look forward to getting up early and learning because I know in the macro, it's going to help me. My priorities now have...
And others.
For sure. It's going to help everything. It's going to help everything that I'm a part of. My priorities went from being good in the micro, like safe in the micro, safe in the micro, safe in the micro, to mostly sacrificing, for lack of a better term, the micro, because I know it'll pay off eventually. My priorities now, everything I do on a daily basis is played out years in advance. So it's my priorities today are something that you may not see for years. You might say, like, why are you watering that plant? Like, why are you watering that seed again? Like, you watered it yesterday.
Because in 5 years, this is going to be a magnificent tree.
Right. Is that from a movie?
No,
Oh.
I feel that.
Magnificent tree. I like that.
I feel like I'm watering so many plants that no one else can see. This will be quick, but have you ever heard about the right? Have you ever heard about the bamboo
Yes.
that takes 5 years to break through the soil, but then it grows 200 feet within and I'm paraphrasing,
Right.
within like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And so for 5 years, no one can see the result. There's this meme on Instagram that I posted a long time ago that I love. One person has like a huge stalk with a tiny little carrot, and the stalk is above ground, and it's like luscious and green, but a tiny little carrot under the soil. And then there's this huge carrot under the ground that you can see in the meme, but it's like only got a little tiny stalk that other people can see. And I really think it's again, what Kevin's talking about, you're a byproduct. Who you are today is a byproduct of these priorities.
Yeah.
You shifted your priority from making money to changing lives.
Yeah.
From, having fun to getting better. And your happiness and who you're all listening to and hopefully going to meet on July 25th and hopefully looking at on YouTube and social media as an example. And I know I look to Kevin as an example in many ways.
I appreciate that.
This is a byproduct of something bigger. and these priorities that he's shifted. So if any of this is resonating for you in terms of the old Kevin and the old Kevin's priorities and then the shifts he's made, it's going to take longer to pay off, but I promise you it'll be worth it.
I think that's one of the things I'm most passionate about is the fact that that's why I like that analogy. Like, I don't even know if it's an analogy, but this version of Kevin is 2 years old. So I don't ever want somebody to look at me and say, yeah, I could never do that, though. You could, because I said I could never do it when I was looking at people like Alan. And I haven't done it yet. I've done a lot. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. I've evolved a lot. And I've become a far different person than I used to be. But it's only because of my priorities. It's only because of my habits. It's only because of my effort. I wasn't blessed with a giant brain and a silver spoon. It's just because I decided, and again, that's one of my favorite things ever. Like, I decided that I wanted to make a change, and I shifted my priorities, which then shifted my habits. And then that's basically... That's how everything starts.
That's basically it.
That's it. That's it.
So let's get vulnerable here for a second. You just spent 2 days away, 2 or 3 days away, and I would argue that you were in an environment that was not around a lot of things that used to be a priority that are not anymore.
Yeah.
What do people do if they find themselves consistently in environments where they've set these new intentions, right? They listen to this podcast. They're into personal development. Maybe they've touched base with us in the Facebook group. Hopefully they have.
Shameless plug.
Right. But now they're still in old environments that are no longer maybe serving their greatest purpose, their greatest level of contribution, their goals and dreams, their priorities, their new priorities. What are some pains that you're going through, and how do they shift into more environments that are in alignment?
I would say this. Old environments will get you old results. So picture yourself as you were one time a seed and now you're a plant that's growing. And you're growing and you have two options. You can either jump to another bigger pot so you can expand. You can stay in the pot you're in and stay at the size you're at. Or you can go back into a smaller pot where you actually have to lose some of what you know. And you have to filter yourself and be less of you. I think a lot of people are getting into rooms where they're getting into a smaller pot, where they have to filter themselves, where they can't be their full, authentic selves. And I think there's times for that.
Right.
I think certain avenues of rest and relaxation where you just turn your brain off and just be, I think that's great. But I think if you're in a room with people who do not want results that you want, you will be different than them. And I know that sounds harsh, but I feel very confident saying that, because if you want results other people don't want, you're going to have to do things other people aren't doing.
Fact.
Right? If the recipe, or if the meal has different ingredients, the recipe has to be different.
Fact.
And I think that's fine. I think it's fine to be around people who don't want the same thing. Like, it's super important to coexist. It's super important to have different levels of ambition around you. But you also have to understand that, like, if I'm getting up at 4:30, I have to go to bed maybe earlier than other people.
Right.
And then if they don't understand that, that's on them. I have to do it. Maybe fitness isn't a priority to you, so you don't go, on a Sunday or whatever. After driving to New York. Alan and I are traveling to New York tomorrow.
Oh, right.
I think I'll probably be working out in the morning, but maybe it's not a priority to you. If it's not a priority to you, then you're going to think I'm crazy for doing it. No, I'm not crazy. It's just in alignment with the person I want to be. So it's hard. It really is hard. I don't know exactly what the answer is. I think it's just understand it's okay to be unique, especially if your uniqueness is going to create your success.
Right.
Because it usually does. It's usually our uniqueness that helps us. Like, that's the definition of being unique. It sets you apart from others. Well, what if you lean into that uniqueness, double down on it? Uniqueness will create unique habits. Double down on it, and you'll become the most hyper-conscious, unique version of yourself. I don't know if that answered your question.
It did.
Okay.
It totally did.
Solid. I was just pulling words out like the, cat, dog, unique.
Unique New York. Jim Rohn says something that's I find fascinating. He says one of the worst ideas in the world is trying to be extraordinary while doing average things. There really is no way around that. Like you said, if you want a specific outcome, there's a different recipe than other people. That doesn't mean that you can't spend time with them. It just means understand how much time you can allocate in those other priorities.
Yeah.
So here's the next question. I believe that one of the master skills of prioritization is the ability to say no.
Ooh.
Right, here we go. We all want to be liked and please others. I admit that. You admit that.
Yes.
We want to be liked. It feels good to be liked. But how have you gotten so good at saying no to things outside alignment with the best Kevin? And how can the listeners practice that? You mentioned in the earlier today that there were times when you were away where other people wanted to do things that you and Taryn didn't want to do, and that you said no, and we're going to go hang out and be by ourselves. That's nothing against anybody, but you were able to say no, even though it was uncomfortable to do so. Yes. So how have you gotten so good at that? And how do you help? Dude, I think you're better at that than most people. Seriously.
Okay, I appreciate that. I don't know. I don't know if I feel that necessarily. I don't know if I feel as competent as you see necessarily.
Well, then let's go into that, because I think our listeners struggle. For my clients, people who have reached out as listeners, I really think saying no is hard. For what was the 4 tendencies?
Oh, obligers.
The obligers is the biggest group.
Yeah.
So if you do feel like you struggle to say no when someone you care about asks you for something or asks you to do something that isn't in alignment, it's not a priority, how do we help them?
It's a strange thing because you almost have to say, like, okay, ask yourself a couple questions. What will me saying no get me? Will this me saying no break rapport? That's always one of the things I'm thinking of. Like, maybe I know what I'm doing is not a priority. Maybe I know this cannot be a sustainable priority. But what will happen if I say no? Will it be a break in rapport if it's somebody close to me? If that's the case, I weigh it differently. There's a lot of people that want your time. There's a lot of people that want our time. And I think that's amazing. That's what I wished for. Having 40, 50 text messages one time. Like, I used to wish for that.
I know.
I used to wish that people cared
Enough
and
to-
valued enough about me that they wanted to talk to me. Yep. But now I have to understand that the only reason you value me and my time is because the ability to say no to the things that don't make me better.
Right.
You value me now because of the results. The only reason I have the results is because when I didn't, I was working on getting the results. So I think you have to understand that if somebody doesn't want the same thing that you want, you're going to have to say no to certain things. And I think most people are people pleasers because it's easier to please somebody else than it is to, hurt them.
It's a micro win.
Yeah. I think you're going to have to do things you don't want to do. You're going to have to. I think you genuinely do. I don't think there's ever a time where you just don't get to.
You mean having to do things you don't want to do?
Yeah, you're always
Fact.
going to have to
Always.
please other people.
Sometimes.
On maybe on a smaller level, but I think it all starts with you understanding your mission. Like, people in my life know that if I have a podcast, that comes first, more over anything.
Yep.
Over anything.
Yep.
And it has to, because unless you're a podcaster, you don't understand it.
Not fully.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be around people who understand why you're doing what you're doing. They have to understand your purpose. They have to understand your passion. They have to understand your drive. They have to understand your vision.
And that's all predicated on your ability to communicate those things.
That is very
as
true.
well.
That is
it's
very
our
true.
responsibility, I think, to communicate that. And I don't think I've always done a good job in my life at communicating like how important my mission is to me. I said to you earlier, I realize this. Anyone who's consistently in my life these days is trying to help me change the world.
Right.
And if they're not, it's noticeable. Sorry, I didn't mean to just
No, you're good. I think
hijack.
you're good. I think that's a great. That's kind of along the line I'm riding. Because I don't. Like, I used to want to do things that a lot of people wanted to do, and now I don't. I don't want to go out drinking. I don't want to do a lot of things. Like, my idea of R&R is not what most people's is anymore. It's not what most people's is, but neither is my dream. Neither are my goals. Neither is my vision. I want to be the best in the world at something. So, like, naturally my habits have to be different. Naturally my priorities have to be different.
Right.
What I will say is, in the moment it may seem difficult. In the moment it may seem like the person that is asking and you're saying no to may seem like they don't like you. It may seem like they don't understand you. But when you succeed, they will understand why. I will say that.
Yeah. I would also argue that you can say, listen, this is nothing personal, but my priorities are just different. That's not a priority right now, but it's nothing personal. I still
Right.
care about you.
Yeah.
I just don't really want to do that. And maybe there's a middle ground
Yeah.
between what they suggested and then what's more in alignment.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of ways to go about this. But this is fire. Dude, I think all of us, if we have big goals and dreams, are going to struggle because we all have to coexist with people that have different goals and dreams and different core values. And if you're into personal development, there's a lot of people out there that you love that really aren't, and that's okay. But it's going to be difficult for them to understand why you're doing what you're doing when what you're doing is predicated on something they can't see yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and how could they?
Right.
They don't have that thing yet.
Right.
They don't have that drive. They don't have that vision of something.
And even if they do, they don't have your vision.
Right.
So I don't know what, you know what I mean? Like they don't know what's in your head 5 years from now.
But
they
think
don't know
that's-
what plant you're watering. They see you watering some ground. And they're
I
like,
know.
is there even a seed under there,
I
man?
know. And that's why you and I get along so well, because our missions are so very similar.
Right.
And I think that makes it that really is probably our superpower, the fact that like they're so similar.
They're this very, very much the same.
Yeah, it's crazy to me how similar they are.
Yeah. And that's
So-
why this is so wonderful.
right, because I understand when I ask Alan something and he says no.
Right.
Like, do you want to come up and hang out? No, I can't. Cool, man. I don't care.
Right.
I understand why.
Totally.
I know how much work you're doing behind the scenes. I see it. You know, he doesn't know how much work I'm doing behind the scenes. He assumes I've hired somebody,
I
but
feel like everything just flows. I
Right.
think I just allow.
Right.
All right. So, no, I know Kevin is a workhorse. Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Last question. I believe that having better priorities based on my goals, dreams, and greatest level of contribution has made my life 1,000 times better. What do you believe the listeners will get if they start prioritizing and making priorities a priority?
Oh, Jesus.
I know,
Jesus. Jesus. Prioritizing and making priorities
A priority.
A priority.
What do they get? What are they going to get?
I think that if this was a commercial,
Sell them on it.
I would
Kev.
say this to you. Everybody wants, a better body. Everybody wants more money. Everybody wants a better life and a next level relationship. Everybody wants to live in the house of their dreams, have the life of their dreams, and be with a person of their dreams. The only problem is you haven't built in the priorities or the habits to achieve any of that. And I think that's where it all comes from. Do you want to make more money? Okay, make it a priority to save more money. Make it a priority to take 10% of every check and invest it in the stock market, right? Make it a priority. Make it part of your life. Do you want to be in shape? Okay, fine. I appreciate that. I understand that. And I'm proud of you for wanting to make that shift. Download MyFitnessPal and make it a priority to track your calories, or make it a priority to go to the personal trainer every week or go to the gym on your own. I genuinely feel like breathing is a priority. It just happens naturally. Drinking water is a priority. If you don't do it, you die. If you don't breathe, you die. If you don't sleep, you die. Those are priorities. Now, those are necessities, but they're also priorities. And I think there's different levels to this. But if you want to be successful, you need to make getting better a priority. If you want to be in a healthy, sustainable relationship, you need to make communication a priority. If you want to be a good parent, you need to make spending time with your children a priority. Like, there are basic things that you will have to do regardless of anything else.
10-second blip. What is the main reason you believe other people don't have, positive priorities?
10-second blip?
Yeah.
Because you have only done them for a short enough time to not like them and not a long enough time to see that they pay off.
Right.
So you've only felt the pain, you haven't felt the pleasure yet.
Of positive priorities?
Yeah.
Right.
It's hard
because
to
positive priorities take longer.
Yeah, it's hard to
pay
eat
off.
clean every day for 2 months and then realize you haven't lost the weight you wanted to lose. You know what I mean?
Go deeper.
If I know a lot about fitness, I know how my body works, I know exactly what, the calories I should be eating.
Yeah.
But say somebody said like, okay, I want to lose weight and I'm eating this amount of calories every day. I've done it for a month and I haven't lost any weight. Nutrition is not a priority to me anymore. It doesn't work. Well, that's not true. It didn't work yet. Or maybe
Yeah.
you didn't have the right numbers. Or maybe,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So if it doesn't pay off immediately, I think a lot of people drop it and it goes to the bottom of the priority list.
Right.
So if you are only counting on the results, then you need to wait a little bit longer.
Totally.
Before you
It
start
does
making
come
changes.
back to bad habits are rewarded quicker.
Dramatic rating time.
Thank you for that intro. All right, so this dramatic reading, I believe, is unbelievably relevant to everything that Kevin was just talking about. So this is from Matthew McConaughey's speech, one of my favorite speeches. If you go to my YouTube channel, it's actually under Alan's favorite speeches, I believe. It's one of my playlists. But he, at the University of Houston commencement in 2015, gave what he calls the 13 truths. This is the 5th truth, and I'm only going to read a portion of it, but it's called Process of Elimination is the first step to our identity, a.k.a. where you are not is as important as where you are. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. All right, the start. Here we go. The first step that leads to our identity in life is usually not, I know who I am, but rather, I know who I am not. The process of elimination. Defining ourselves by what we are not is the first step that leads us to really knowing who we are. You know that group of friends you hang out with that really don't bring out the best in you? They gossip too much or they're kind of shady and they really aren't going to be there for you in a pinch? Or how about that bar we keep going to that we always seem to have the worst hangover from? Or that computer screen that keeps giving us an excuse not to get out of the house and engage with the world and get some real human interaction? Or how about that food we keep eating? It tastes so good on the way down but makes us feel like crap the next week when we feel lethargic and we keep putting on weight. Those people, those places, those things, stop giving them your time and energy. Don't go there. Put them down. And when you do quit giving them your time, you inadvertently find yourself spending more time and in more places that are more healthy for you. They bring you more joy. Why? Because you just eliminated the who's, the where's, the what's, and the when's that were keeping you from your identity. Trust me, too many options will make a tyrant of us all. I love that quote.
Yes.
So get rid of the excess, the wasted time. Decrease your options. And you will have accidentally, almost innocently, put in front of you what is most important to you by process of elimination. Knowing who we are is hard. Give yourself a break. Eliminate who you are not first, and you'll find yourself where you need to be.
I like that. Matthew McConaughey. Powerful.
He's next level.
He is next level.
One of my
I
favorites.
Actually, watched that one. I watched that commencement
Did you?
speech, yeah.
It's a fire speech.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey. Interesting. His hair was a stray, right? On that
Oh,
one?
yeah, man. He had a
okay.
big old beard.
Yeah, just making sure.
Big old beard.
Making sure this is the right one. I don't know. I think we jumped around in this episode all over the place because it's hard. Everybody has different priorities. And I think the main takeaway, the main thing that I would like you, if you're watching this or listening this, to leave with is the fact that you're not always going to be understood for the things that you're doing. You're not always going to have the support that you probably think you need. And that's not because people are bad people. It's not because people don't want to support you. It's sometimes because people don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, but they may never because they don't have the same priorities you do. If you want to be the best basketball player in the world, one of your priorities is to practice shooting free throws for 2 or 3 hours a day. And that has to be one of your priorities.
Yep.
Now, I would say that's crazy because I'm not a basketball player. So I would never do that. So if Kobe said, hey, Kev, every day for the rest of your life, do you want to hang out with me and spend 3 hours
On the basketball court.
on the basketball court? I would say, no, Kobe, I'm trying to change the world, dog. You know what I mean? Also, no, I
Yeah.
can't shoot to save my life. But I think it's
I've
very
seen it.
it's very similar.
Right.
Where if you have an assignment due, if it's a Sunday night and you have an assignment due Monday morning and your friends are going out to the bar, their priority is to go out and have fun. Your priority is to get your test done. And I think a lot of us are challenged with those decisions, not on the same level, but it's the same thing. If somebody has different priorities than you do, it's going to seem like they're trying to pull you towards theirs, and you have to stay committed to yours. It's a reason. There's a reason it is a priority. And there is a reason they have their priority. Maybe they already finished their work. It doesn't make them a bad person. They want to go out and have a couple beers. Well, you didn't finish your work yet, so it has to be a priority. So my main takeaway for you, or my main hope that you will take away from this is it's okay. It's okay to want something different. Just understand that you won't get anything different unless you make sure that your habits and your priorities are different. So that's the main thing I want people to know. My priority is to get better. And that's why I try to do as many things as possible to get better. Like Alan and I are driving 3 hours to New York tomorrow to podcast with Tori Leto in person.
Cannot wait for that.
Like why are we going to do that?
Right.
Because it's a priority to have amazing guests on. It's a priority to get in the room with somebody who knows so much about relationship dynamics and all of that. We want to learn.
Yeah,
So-
and everybody loved the first episode.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have it's a priority, and it just lines up with
Everything we're doing.
with everything. So yeah.
If Kevin just gave his main takeaway, we got to go. But if you want to design a life you love, it's going to be unique to you by default. And therefore, everything you must do on a day-to-day basis to build, everything you must prioritize to build that magnificent dream life is going to be different. I would say try your best to spend most of your time with people in alignment with what you're trying to build.
I dig it. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't yet, head over to join Hyperconscious Nation. Again, we have our tickets. What is today? Today will be Wednesday.
This will be Friday.
This is Friday.
The last day.
So today is the last day to get your early bird special tickets. So make sure you get them before the day is up. The prices will go up tomorrow. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Up next is actually our episode where we are lucky enough to sit down with Tori Leto in person.
yeah.
So we will be in a different room with a different setup. The Hyperconscious podcast will be traveling yet again.
Tori is the sweetest. I can't wait for this. Also, if you get two or more tickets, you'll be entered to win the Fitbit.
Yes.
As well. And then we're also giving away 2 free tickets if you join the Hyperconscious Nation. So I think you just mentioned that.
I don't know if I did. We're mentioning it a lot.
Right.
Also, we're doing an event in Florida. We don't know exactly when
First
yet.
week in September.
First week in
most
September.
likely.
So-
in Boca Raton.
So if you're in the Florida area, come see ya boys. Also, Eddie Pinero of Your World Within will be there.
Yes.
Terrence McMahon will be there. It's interesting. Every single one of these people has been a podcast guest.
Yeah.
And then Wade and Phil from Boca Raton from Evolution Fitness. So
Yeah, T-Mac will be speaking on wealth creation. Kevin will be speaking on the hyperconscious mindset. I'll be speaking on natural fitness. Eddie Pinero will be doing his motivational, inspirational stories and how to design a life you love. And then I'm pretty sure Phil and Wade will be talking on military leadership and military mindset. And this is going to be an epic event. If you are in the Florida area, please reach out to us for more details. And
the only reason, just before we go, the only reason that these speeches are happening is because we made them a priority. We literally said, like, hey, we need to do speeches this year. We have a weekly mastermind call with Joyce.
Yep.
Where
Just
we talk
got off it
about
today.
Right. We
Yeah.
talk about the Confident Women's Consortium every week, and we have a giant mastermind group now with Eddie, Phil, Wade, and T-Mac, where we talk about the event in Florida. So when you make things a priority, you will get those results eventually.
eventually is the key word.
You just have to keep working for
Your World Within Live.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this one, and we will talk to you on Sunday.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast.
Going hyperconscious will absolutely change your life, because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyperconscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends, because the more people that go hyperconscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyperconscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.